I think I always had that visual spark. Even when I was a kid, I was the one that wanted to take all the family photos, and it became sort of my role. One of my usual spots. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, I love this moment. You want to do the pour first? A lot of the brokenness that I've seen is probably part of the fuel for why I'm so drawn to maximizing and also being able to have the perspective to bring out the beauty in things that are not obviously beautiful. Shall we? We can go up the stairs this way. Usually when I come into this place, it reminds me of when I was working with my mom, or even when I was younger, when I wasn't working with her, but I was at her warehouse, just being a kid. And I mean, this place has it obviously organized in one level, but we used to have our rolls of fabric in just like one section. It was like a mountain. That was my happy place. Definitely being surrounded by textiles, it's very nostalgic for me. It makes me feel like I'm at home. When I'm looking at these fabrics, I am looking for several different things. One is the actual, type of sheen that it has. I also look at what it has in terms of the hand feel. Even though hand feel isn't incredibly important to my work, it does give me clues as to what kind of material I'm working with and how breathable it would be, for example, and whether or not I can use certain adhesives or certain kinds of ink on it. Because some fabrics, if they're true treated, then you can't really print on it. And then I'm also going through, because of my own experience and experimentation, I know now what kind of effect a certain material will have, because I've gone through many iterations, many failed attempts to get to the right ones. And then color, obviously, as well. That's an obvious one, but definitely looking at what color I can use to actually sing the right songs. I kind of like to work with fabrics that have limited runs, or dead stock, which means they just don't make them anymore, which to me is an added value. I specifically source materials so that it actually gives off a certain kind of electric charge. That's why I work with linen on a lot of my pieces, because linen's a living fiber and arguably the most important and most useful fiber for human beings. It's living and breathing, just like us. Because I want my art to have a healing component to it, I definitely am mindful about what kind of charge the material is going to have, and therefore the type of impact and influence it'll have over the human being that ends up spending a lot of time around it.
All right, now so we're gonna head over to my my printing warehouse. I want to do some. I'm actually working on some experimental basis right now, so gotta go put in work.
Hi, Paul.
Oh, that's the one.
I got the goods.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good.
Paul's the man.
Yeah.
So this is where it's at now. This is like stage 4. There's like 7 stages. In a city like LA, it really teaches you that contradictions constantly coexist. And I think because of that, from a young age, I naturally engaged in what is called perspective taking, where I do my utmost to step into other people's shoes and look through their lenses. I can never underestimate the influence and impact that my years of travel and just immersive cross-cultural experiences have allowed. Taking a good photo, creating a good image, has very little to do with the physical device that you're using, and much more to do with the original camera, which is your eyes. If you have a really good camera up here, then physically translating that into execution, into technique, it's inevitable. That's the cool thing about photography, is that through the imagery, you get a sense of the photographer's perspective on themselves and on the world around them. And over time, as you get to see maybe similar themes in their subject matter, you get a much deeper sense of what is inside of that person's soul that they so crave to share with you. My mother gave me a fundamental understanding and appreciation for quality and why quality materials are always worth it in the long run. In my opinion, framing the piece is part of completing the art. This is a piece that I created on velvet because I wanted the ocean to have some movement in it. And you can see it in the light, but the water, it imitates movement because of the velvet. And the randomness of the sheen on the velvet is sort of imitating and playing with the randomness, but also the currents and waves and movement of the water in the image. And this is just a really fun, delightful sensory piece. Basically, everyone was familiar with that somatic sensation of being pricked in the finger by a cactus, and also familiar with the sensation of being submerged underwater or in water. And having them two come together in one image, in one scene, transcribed on velvet, this is how I like to tell my story. My mom passed away in October of 2018. I do think it's important to say that something died within me. I didn't pick up my camera. My camera collected dust for years after she passed. But several years into the grieving process, I had this voice inside that I can only describe as my mother's voice. And I could see and feel her urging me to start shooting again and to start making art again and to put on the lens that I used to have and the attitude that I once used to have towards life, towards creativity, towards living fully. Feels strange saying this, but I'm so grateful for photography. And I'm so grateful to be able to pick up a camera again and flow in that creative vein that I was born into. In choosing to continue, I get to honor my mother's legacy, who was one of the most, brilliant creatives I knew. Because essentially, if you're a good designer, that means that you're able to perform the marriage of form and function better than anyone else in the room. And that was definitely her identity, her archetype. Also, major blessing, major gift. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to have my own healing journey be imbued by my mother's story, but also what is now my story with the camera that I've picked up and the stories that I've chosen to tell and the materials that I've chosen to tell them through.